The sky above was cracked with smoke. The ground was broken like shattered glass. Nothing moved except the wind, and even that sounded sick. Cade opened his eyes slowly, coughing as ash filled his lungs. Everything hurt. His right leg was pinned under twisted metal. His cum device sparked uselessly beside him. His uniform was ripped and blood had dried down his neck. But he was alive, just barely. His mind was foggy, but he remembered the crash. Their transport had been hit during patrol. Engines failed. The ship spun out of control and slammed into the cliffs of this forbidden zone. They called it Sector Black. No rescue ships were allowed in. No signals got out. Cade had watched his squad evacuate. They grabbed what they could supplies, gear, weapons, and ran. No one checked if he was breathing. No one looked twice at the small, quiet alien girl who had been strapped down in the medical section. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't human. She couldn't even walk, so they left her too. Now she lay. Few feet from him, half covered in dust, motionless, her arms twisted unnaturally under her body. Her skin was a pale violet, marked with thin glowing lines that dimmed with each minute. Her eyes were open but blank. Cade tried to move, groaning in pain. The metal pinning his leg wouldn't budge. He looked at her. "Hey, can you hear me?" No reply. He stretched his arm toward her, fingers trembling. Finally, he touched her hand. It was cold. Too cold. "I won't leave you," he whispered. Even though he couldn't leave himself, hours passed. The sun dimmed. Shadows grew long across the canyon. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, low groans. Metal scraping rock. And the clicking of unseen creatures moving just beyond sight. Cade had heard rumors about this place, creatures that fed on the still living, things that didn't show up on scans, things that hated light. Inhumans. He looked around. No weapon, no flashlight. Only a broken med pack and a half-working canteen. The girl hadn't moved, but something about her face bothered him. She didn't look afraid. She looked calm, like she was waiting for something. Cade clenched his teeth, grabbed a long pipe, and used it to slowly push the debris off his leg. Pain exploded in his bones, but he didn't scream. He needed to stay alert. He crawled to her side and gently turned her over. She groaned, just a whisper of sound, but her fingers twitched. "You're alive," he breathed. Her lips moved. He leaned close. She didn't say a full word, just a single broken sound. Stay. By nightfall, the cold was brutal. Cade dragged her into the remains of the cargo bay and used loose fabric to cover them both. He propped her against a wall and wrapped a heat strip around her chest. She was still breathing. He talked softly. Even though he didn't know if she understood, "They left us both," he said. "This place is cursed. I don't believe in curses, but I believe in monsters." She blinked slowly. He stared at her eyes. They were glowing now, faintly, as if something inside her had sparked the moment he chose to stay. At midnight, the creatures came, silent, crawling on the edges of the broken ship. One of them climbed the wreck, thin as bone with skin like melted plastic and eyes like cracked glass. It hissed, sensing heat. Cade held a jagged metal shard in one hand, his body blocking the girl's. "If you're going to eat something," he whispered to the dark, "start with me." The creature stepped closer. It raised its claws, and then... What? Not from a gun, not from fire, from her. The alien girl behind him began to glow. Her skin lit with soft blue light. The air around her shimmered. The creature screamed, then vanished into the dark. Cade turned. Her body was still weak, still slumped, but the glow in her chest pulsed like a heartbeat, and her lips moved again. Clearer. "This time, you stayed." He stared at her, confused. "Yeah, I did." She smiled just a little, and her fingers, once frozen, curled around his hand. Asterisk at first. Cade thought it was the firelight playing tricks on his tired eyes, but it wasn't. The alien girl's chest was glowing. Not bright, not burning, just softly alive, like a memory reawakening after too long in the dark. He watched her breathe, slow and steady. Her skin no longer looked cold. The purple tone of her body had a faint golden tint, and the glowing lines under her skin now pulsed with gentle rhythm. She wasn't dying anymore. She was changing. Outside the wreckage, the wind howled through jagged rocks. Every now and then, a distant shriek echoed from the canyon's inhuman. Sharp, always closer than it should be. Cade sat beside her, holding the metal shard tightly. He hadn't slept. He couldn't, not with the creatures out there, but the girl. She had closed her eyes for the first time since the crash, and she looked peaceful, like she felt safe. Cade looked at her face again. It was narrow, delicate, and scarred around the temples like someone had once tried to plug wires into her skull. Her lips were dry, but her glow, it wasn't just light. It was warmth. He leaned closer and whispered, "What are you?" Woke before sunrise, not fully, but enough to open her eyes and whisper, "Water." Her voice was hoarse, soft like cracked glass. Cade helped her sip from the canteen. "I'm Cade," he said gently. She blinked, trying to focus. "Valet." Nodded. "You're going to be okay." "No," she said, staring at her hands. "I'm broken. You're healing." Her eyes flicked to his. "Because you didn't run." That day she tried to move. Her legs still limp shook, as Cade helped her sit up against the wall. She winced in pain but didn't complain. Cade built a makeshift crutch from broken piping. He set it beside her, just in case. The wreckage creaked above them. The air was thin. Supplies were nearly gone. He should have been thinking about escape, but instead was watching her closely, noticing how the veins of light in her skin brightened. Each time he helped her, how she shivered not from cold, but from something deeper. "Valet," he said, "what's happening to you?" She stared at her hands, glowing faintly in the shadows. "My kind are born with 2 lives," she whispered. "The first is silent. The second only starts when someone chooses to protect us." Cade frowned. "That's why you started too." "Change when I shielded you?" She nodded. "Our bodies were designed long ago, before your kind reached the stars. We don't heal like you. We don't grow like you. We regenerate only through safety, through sacrifice." Cade sat beside her, thinking. "So the more I protect you, the more I live," she finished. That night, they were tested again. The creatures returned. This time, not 1 but 3. They crawled through the holes in the wreckage. Long arms, glassy eyes, teeth that pulsed with static. They didn't just want food. They wanted heat, movement, anything alive. Cade stood over Valet, heart racing. He had no gun, no armor, just his body. The first creature leapt. He blocked it with a metal plate. The impact knocked him to the ground. The second creature crept toward Valet, hissing. She screamed not in fear, but in warning. The light in her chest flared. Cade pushed himself up, bleeding from the shoulder, and threw himself between her and the creature. It lunged and then stopped, frozen, mid-dash. Air as if it hit a wall of invisible fire. The glow around Valet exploded. The creature disintegrated. Ash, when the danger passed, Cade dropped to his knees. He was shaking. His clothes were torn. Blood ran down his arm, and Valashi was crying, tears glowing softly as they fell down her cheeks. He looked up. At her, stunned. "You can cry?" "I feel more," she whispered. "Every time you get hurt to save me, I remember what it's like to care." He smiled weakly. "That's a dangerous power." She touched his hand, trembling. "That's yours." At dawn, she stood, wobbly, barely. But she stood. Cade stared in disbelief as she clung to the metal crutch and pulled herself upright. Her legs were thin, weak, but they moved, and her eyes, those strange, glowing eyes, looked straight at him. "You stayed," she said again. He gave a tired smile. "It's like that did something good." "No," she replied softly. "It did everything." Her legs trembled with every step, but she walked not far, not fast, but enough to shake something inside Cade that had long gone numb. Just a day ago, she couldn't speak. Just a day ago, she was cold and paralyzed. Now the alien girl with glowing skin stood under a broken sky, crutch in hand, barefoot on sharp stone, and whispered, "Let's keep moving." Cade wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. Instead, he nodded. "Let's try." The two of them limped across the dead zone, moving slow through shattered terrain. The wreckage of the crash was behind them now, burned and full of shadow. Ahead lay the cliffs, maybe a signal tower if they were lucky, maybe another DEATHTRAP. VEA leaned heavily on him. Her body was healing, yes, but it was fragile. Her legs buckled every few minutes. And each time Cade caught her before she fell. But every time he caught her, her glow grew stronger. He noticed something else too. His wounds were closing faster than expected. The gash on his shoulder, the burn. On his arm, they were healing quicker than any field patch could explain. "Vele," he said as they stopped to rest beneath a rock shelf. "Am I changing?" She sat beside him, eyes soft. "Yes." Raised an eyebrow. "It's not very comforting." She turned toward him and placed a glowing hand against his chest. "When you protect me, I grow. But when I accept that protection, I give something back." Cade looked down at her hand, then at his skin. There was a faint light where she touched. Him, not hers. His as they rested, Vele told him more. Her people were not warriors, not invaders. They had been bred long ago as guardians of something ancient, something lost. Their kind was connected to energy, to feeling, to intention. Pain hurt them less than betrayal. Silence killed them faster than weapons. And trust healed them faster than science ever could. "We were designed to survive through connection," she said. "But when our worlds fell, we were hunted, experimented on, separated." Cade nodded slowly. "And you ended up in a human transport, paralyzed, bound." She didn't answer. She didn't have to, as they traveled farther into the canyon. Strange lights appeared in the sky, soft pulses of green and violet, like a storm was trapped behind. The clouds, then they saw the wall. It wasn't natural. A massive slab of alien metal. Half buried, humming low, Cade approached slowly, scanning for danger. Suddenly a click. The ground shifted. Vele grabbed his arm. Back too late. The floor beneath him collapsed. Cade fell. He hit the bottom hard dust. Metal. Pain. He groaned, trying to move, but a sharp crunch in his leg stopped him, broken above him. Vele screamed his name. He looked up through the hole, and for the first time, saw her face twist in panic. "I'm fine." He lied. "You're not," she whispered, already trying to climb down. Her steps were shaky. Her face pale, but she didn't stop. She dropped down beside him hard. Her knees gave out. She crawled the last few feet to his side. Her hands hovered over his broken leg. She was breathing fast, scared, shaking. "I'm the one who's supposed to protect you," he said weakly. She stared at him. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. "Not this time." Then it happened. The light from her skin moved. Not like before, not just veins glowing. This was something deeper. More raw. The glow flowed from her body into his. She placed both hands on his leg. Her fingers burned with golden light. The heat was intense, like fire without pain. Cade gasped as the bones shifted. As muscle pulled itself back together, in seconds, the pain was gone. He looked down. No wound. No blood. His leg was whole. Vele collapsed into his arms. Her glow dimmed. Cade held her close. "You didn't have to." She cut him off with a whisper. "You protected me, even when you were broken." I couldn't watch that again. They sat there in the hollow chamber, surrounded by metal and forgotten echoes. He helped her lean against the wall. She looked tired, too tired, but peaceful. Cade stared at the healed leg, then at her. "You said you break when you protect?" He said quietly. She gave a faint smile. "Yes, but you're worth the damage." Above them, the sky roared again. A new threat approached, not a storm, but footsteps. Heavy, marching, human, but they weren't coming to save. Asterisk the footsteps weren't echoes anymore. They were real, rhythmic, heavy, too many to count. Cade stood slowly, jaw tight, ears trained on the noise above. The chamber walls trembled slightly with each step. Whoever it was, they were close, coming fast, coming straight for them. Valet stirred beside him, weak and pale, her glow dimmed after healing him. Her legs refused to move now. She clutched the wall and whispered, "They're human." He already knew. Only humans marched like that, confident, loud, unafraid of being heard, because they thought nothing could touch them. Cade helped Valet to her feet, slinging her arm around his shoulder. Her breath was shallow, her body light. Too light. "You used everything on me," he murmured. She nodded. "I'll be fine, just not ready to run." Looked toward the broken ledge where he had fallen. Too high, no way back up with her. In his arms they were trapped, and the squad was getting closer. Then a familiar voice echoed from above, cold, commanding, visual on the anomaly. Hostile confirmed. Cade froze. That voice belonged to Captain Drell, his old team leader, the one who left him to die. Moments later, ropes dropped down. 3 soldiers descended, black armor, white helmets, pulse rifles ready. They didn't speak. They didn't hesitate. The moment they saw Valet, they aimed. "She's injured," Cade shouted, stepping in front of her. One soldier barked, "Step aside, Sergeant. She's not a threat." "That thing is a biological weapon, not a person," another snapped. "Orders are clear. No witnesses. No survivors." Cade's blood boiled. Valet trembled behind him. One soldier raised his weapon. Cade moved first. He grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and struck the rifle upward as it fired. The blast missed his face by inches. Sparks flew. The second soldier aimed it too slow. Cade was already on him, driving his shoulder into the man's gut, slamming him against the wall. The third soldier hesitated. Big mistake. Cade tackled him down and ripped off the helmet. He recognized the face. Lieutenant Drex. The same man who stepped over his broken body after the crash. Still alive? Drex sneered. Cade didn't answer with words. He answered with fists by the time it ended. All 3 soldiers were unconscious. Blood smeared across the wall. Cade's knuckles were raw. His chest heaved like he had sprinted a mile. But Valishi hadn't moved. She just stared at him, tears in her eyes. A soft glow returning to her fingertips. "You protected me again," she whispered. He turned, breathing hard. "I'd do it 1,000 times. Then her expression changed, is widening. "Cade, behind you." Too late. A blast of energy hit him in the back. He dropped to his knees. Captain Drell stood at the top of the ledge, rifle smoking. "I gave you the benefit of the doubt, Sergeant," he said coldly, lowering himself into the pit. "But you chose the alien." Cade groaned, trying to get up. Drell walked closer. "She's not your friend. She's a prototype. A mistake. Her kind were built to attach to their protectors, mimic empathy, and override loyalty." "She's not a weapon," Cade growled. "No," Drell said, raising the gun again. "But you are, and now you're broken," Svele screamed. The moment Drell's finger touched the trigger, her body pulsed with light. Bright, blinding. Cade rolled to the side as the gun fired. But the blast never reached him. It hit a shield. Her shield. But this time it wasn't soft or glowing. It was alive. Liquid energy stretched from her arms like wings, blocking the blast and sending Drell flying. Backward, Valet stepped forward, without the crutch. Her legs glowed again. Whole. Stronger. She didn't run. She walked straight toward Drell, who tried to stand. She raised her hand, glowing like a star, and whispered, "He protected me. Now it's my turn." Cade watched, stunned, as the air around her cracked like lightning. Not in rage, but in pain. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't made for war. But she had just made a choice that would cost her. The energy she used was tearing her apart. Her glow dimmed as she dropped to her knees. But Drell was down. His weapon was fried. His armor was melted. He didn't move. Cade rushed to her, catching her before she fell. Vele, don't please. She smiled weakly. Still broken? He shook his head. No, you're the strongest being I've ever known. Above, more soldiers were coming. Cade held her close, heart pounding. If he stayed, they'd both die. If he ran, she'd be taken again. But then, he felt something under his palm. A rhythm, a pulse. She was healing, but not just herself. Him again, even as her strength faded. She gave it a weight to him. The canyon trembled with marching boots. Dozens of them. The backup squad had arrived. Cade could hear the worry of drones above, scanning, locking targets. Red dots flicked across the rocks like fireflies with deadly purpose. He held Vele tightly, in his arms. She wasn't unconscious, but she wasn't present either. Her eyes were open, glowing dimly. Her fingers clutched his jacket weakly, and her breathing shallow, fading yet, even now, she was healing him, giving him strength while losing her own. Cade looked toward the edge of the canyon, too steep to climb, too exposed to hide, nowhere to go, and they were closing in fast. Vele whispered something, voice barely audible. Cade leaned close. Don't fight them. Not yet. We'll die if I don't, he said, teeth clenched. She opened her eyes, and for the first time, he saw fear, not of pain, not of death, fear of him getting hurt again. You can't. Stop what I am, she whispered. What does that mean? She didn't answer. Not with words. Her body glowed again, but not like before. This wasn't healing. This wasn't a shield. This was evolution. It began with a hum, low, deep. Not from her mouth, from the space around her, the dust on the ground. Lifted the drones above, hesitated. Blinking red lights flickering like confused insects. Cade backed away slowly, still cradling. Her eyes wide. Vele, what are you doing? She wasn't glowing anymore. She was burning. Her skin had turned from pale violet to radiant gold. The glowing lines had vanished now, replaced by pulsing geometric patterns across her arms and chest. Her spine arched as her legs locked firmly into the earth. She stood, without him, without help. Up above, da-da-da-da, the soldiers shouted. Target has shifted. Bioscan is unstable. She's surging. Wait for two. Late, they fired. A wall of pulse rounds tore through the sky toward her. Cade shouted, N-O-U. But Vele didn't run. She didn't block. She walked forward through the fire. Every blast that hit her dissolved into light. Every bullet simply vanished on contact, as if reality itself refused to let her be harmed. She raised one hand, and the entire canyon froze. The wind stopped. The drones fell like stones, crashing to the rocks with no sound, and the soldiers, every one of them, dropped to their knees. Holding their heads, screaming without sound, Cade's ears rang. His chest tightened. But he wasn't afraid. He was in awe. Vele stood like a being pulled from legend hair, lifted by energy. Eyes glowing like small suns. Then her voice echoed, not through the air, but through every living mind nearby. We're not made to kill. We were made to shield. But if the ones who protect are hunted, then the shield becomes fire. She turned to Cade. Her glow softened. I wasn't supposed to fight, she said softly. You were engineered to hide, to recover, to depend on the kindness of others. But your people left you to die. Still, you stayed for me. Tears traced down her radiant cheeks. Because of you. I remembered what we were before we were broken. She walked toward him barefoot, wounded, glowing. Cade stepped forward too, silent. You were never the weapon, he said. They made you one. No, she replied. You made me free. And then she fell. The light vanished. Her body collapsed into his arms again, shaking violently. The energy was gone. The golden fire, the impossible strength had vanished. She had used everything to save him. Again, and this time, she might not wake up. Cade knelt beside her above them. The soldiers were unconscious. Some were breathing. Some were not. No more fire rained down. No more marching. Just silence on the girl in his arms, who had given everything. pressed his forehead to hers and whispered, "You fought. When I couldn't, you protected me even when it broke you." He looked up at the stars. "I won't let it end like this." Asterisk. A new ship arrived. Not loud. Not fast. It hovered above the broken canyon like a ghost black, silent, shaped like a predator waiting to strike. Its design wasn't standard military, sleeker, sharper, no markings, no visible weapons, but Cade knew what it was. A cleanup. Unit not there to rescue, not there to ask questions, there to erase. He held Vele tightly. In his arms, her body cold again, her skin cracked with fading light. She hadn't spoken in hours. Her glow was nearly gone. She had saved him from the soldiers, saved him from the monsters, saved him from himself, and now they wanted to erase her like a mistake. A voice crackled through the canyon from the ship. "Above Unit 47, you are in unauthorized. Contact with Subject 0 Alpha. Step back. Release the asset. Or be terminated." Cade didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even breathe. His eyes locked on the ship, his voice steady. "She's not your asset." The ship responded by lowering to black-clad enforcers. Sleek armor, full masks, no insignia. These weren't soldiers. They were retrieval agents. And they didn't speak. They moved like machines' rifles raised, scanners flashing. One aimed at Cade, the other pointed at Vele. He stepped between them, rage burning behind his eyes. "You're not touching her." A cold female voice answered through the helmet speakers. "She's not yours to protect." Cade's hand clenched into a fist. "You didn't protect her. You strapped her down, called her it, left her to rot." The second agent took a step forward. She was part of the Genesis trial, linked only to test human empathy. Her feelings aren't real. Her light is artificial. Her memory is fabricated. Cade didn't step back. "Then why does she cry when I bleed?" The agents raised their weapons. Behind him, Vele stirred barely. Her voice was a ghost. "Don't let them take me." "I won't," Cade whispered. Even if it killed him, the agents fired. But something happened before the energy blasts. Hit. Cade didn't raise a shield. Vele didn't glow. But the air moved not. Wind, not light, something ancient. The ground beneath Cade pulsed with alien symbol circles. Lines Rune saw spiraling out from where Vele lay. Her body, though weak, was reacting not by choice, by instinct. Her bond with Cade had triggered something the retrieval unit hadn't prepared for. Anne's activation. The blasts hit the edge of the symbols. Anne vanished, disintegrated. The agents paused. The scanner lights on their helmets blinked erratically. They didn't understand what was happening. Cade did. She wasn't just healing. She was awakening. He looked down at her. Her eyes opened just barely. "I can't stop it," she whispered. "My body remembers, even if I don't." "What is it?" he asked softly. Her lips trembled. "I was never just a prototype." Ship above shuddered. Something inside it detected the rising energy and pulled back. The retrieval agents hesitated, their weapons buzzed. The symbols on the ground grew brighter, no longer just light, but sound. A low hum that shook the canyon walls. And then Vale's voice, soft as breath, said, "They don't want me back. They want me gone. They're afraid of what I was meant to become." Cade's heart pounded. "Then let's show them." He gently placed her hand on his chest. The light jumped from her fingers into his skin, not like before, not healing this time. It was merging. The symbols lit up in a final burst. Every drone in the sky dropped. Like stones, the retrieval agents collapsed. By a sound no human could hear, the ship above flickered, then blinked out of sight. Fleeing into orbit, the canyon fell silent. Cade stood over her, breathing hard. Her glow returned slowly, but now it was different. It was shared. Half of it lived. In him. He knelt beside her, cupping her face. "Are you all right? I don't know what I am anymore." "You're not theirs," he said. "You're not a weapon. You're not broken." She looked at him, eyes wide. "Then what am I?" He smiled softly. "You're free." Cade stood in the center of the canyon, his boots planted firmly in the dust where he had almost died twice. But now, he wasn't just a man who survived. He was something else, something more. and the reason lay trembling in his arms. An alien. Girl who had once been paralyzed and forgotten, now glowing softly with new life. The bond between them pulsed like a second heartbeat in his chest. Not magic. Not tech, something older, something true. The sky above them flickered again, and for a moment they both looked up. Another ship? Not this time. A broadcast. The blue light of a full-spectrum transmission spread across the clouds, lighting the canyon below with a shimmering glow. Then, a face appeared in the sky. High Command, the Admiral. Herself gray-dash-eyed, stone-faced cold. Her voice echoed from every direction. Sergeant Cade Mathen. You have violated Galactic Code 142 Delta. You are harboring experimental alien property and resisting retrieval forces. Stand down and surrender the anomaly. Valet didn't even flinch. Cade didn't blink. He shouted back without hesitation. Her name is Valet, and she's not your experiment anymore. The Admiral's voice grew sharper. That subject is a galactic threat. Its bond with you is destabilizing military AI. Drones across 3 sectors have shut down. Tactical links are failing. You've become a beacon. Cade stepped forward, staring into the sky. Then maybe you should stop building weapons that feel... The Admiral paused for the first time, uncertain. Then her voice returned, cold and clipped. If you do not surrender the anomaly within 60 seconds, planetary cleansing will commence. You will not survive it. She will not survive it. No one on this rock will. The transmission cut out. Cade turned to Valet. Her face was pale, her body weak, but her eyes were full of fire. Is it true? He asked. You're connected. To their systems? She nodded slowly. I was designed to observe, to sense trust, love, sacrifice when I found it. I triggered the truth inside me. He swallowed hard. And now they're scared. They should be, she said softly. Then, her hand brushed his cheek. Because you gave me something they couldn't predict, he whispered. What? She smiled. Purpose. The sky cracked with light. The cleansing weapon was coming. Cade could feel it. A wave of destruction, orbital-based, meant to wipe every trace of their bond from existence. But something had changed in him. He felt her glow in his veins now. He felt his voice strengthen. He felt the fear vanish. He stood tall. Let her go. She collapsed gently to the ground, trusting him. He walked forward, facing the sky, arms wide, and for the first time, was Cade who began to glow. It wasn't bright, it wasn't blinding, but it was honest. Golden lines spread across his body like living armor, not to attack. It's not to destroy, but to protect. He had no weapon, no armor, no command. Only the truth between them. I won't let you erase her. He shouted, and if you try to erase me, then know this: she will rise again in someone else, because you cannot delete what was never programmed. The cleansing beam fired, a white line from orbit, searing, unstoppable. But as it reached the atmosphere, it split, and then it scattered into a rain of harmless light. Dissolving into the sky like stardust, silence followed. No thunder, no fire, just one voice. It's soft, tired, but filled with power. I am not a threat. I am not a weapon. I am not a tool. She stood behind him, her glow restored. I am proof that when someone chooses to protect instead of control, life doesn't need to be built. It becomes. Back at command, screens blacked out. The cleansing system shut down. All attempts to retarget the beam failed. The system had been rewritten by emotion, by connection, by 2 broken beings who refused to stay broken in the canyon. The wind finally returned. Cade turned to her. Are you still breaking when you protect? He asked. She laughed softly. No, she said. I'm finally healing. He reached for her hand. Then let's do it together. Months later, a signal echoed across neutral space. Not a distress call, not a threat, a message from both of them. We are not weapons. We are not projects. We are the shield you abandoned, and we are still standing. and across the stars others began to glow.